And welcome to today's HME News webcast. I'm Christina Thronson, publisher of HME News, and will be serving as your moderator. I'm really excited today to welcome our presenters from NikoHealth, Wayne Hudson, Director of Growth, and Abby Zeckser, VP of Professional Services. Together, they'll share the transition to modern DME software, what it actually looks like, how providers elevate new systems, manage the migration, and adapt modern workflows while keeping day-to-day operations moving smoothly. Before we dive in, a couple quick housekeeping notes. This session will be recorded and it will be available for on-demand viewing. That will be emailed out post-event today. Please submit your questions at any time using the question button within this panel. I'll bring up as many questions to Wayne and Abby during the Q&A following the presentation. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Wayne, you want to get us kicked off?
Yep, happy to kick this off. First and foremost, just want to personally thank everyone for taking some time out of their busy days to learn more about NikoHealth and how to upgrade to a modern solution. So thanks again. And as Christine mentioned, I'm here on the growth team. This is a topic that's near and dear to me, having helped hundreds of DME providers move from legacy systems to NikoHealth. And at this point of kind of the NikoHealth maturity, the product is excellent, but a lot of the questions that come up are actually around how do I actually switch now that I've decided that NikoHealth is the solution that makes sense? What are the steps involved to not only migrate my data, but train my teams and successfully implement NikoHealth? So super excited to go through this with you guys. I'll pass it over to Abby to introduce herself and share a little bit more about her role here at NikoHealth, and then we'll jump into our presentation today. So thanks again, and Abby, you can take it from here.
Thanks, Wayne. And to piggyback off of Wayne, right? So it's really daunting, and we'll talk about that, to switch from a legacy platform to a modern DME. And so today we're going to tactically talk about what NikoHealth does to make this tactical and to get the project across the finish line. So again, I'm Abby Zeckser, I oversee implementations here at NikoHealth, and we can get started with the presentation. All right, so let's start with something we hear really often. Wayne, on the next slide. We're stuck with our legacy system, and that feeling is really understandable. Switching systems takes time, and it requires time and attention from you all today, from people who don't have time and attention to give. So staying where you are is safer. And legacy systems often become embedded in your day-to-day operations. Your teams build workarounds, they build shortcuts, and pretty soon those workarounds become your workflow. And so we hear when people say, I'm stuck on my legacy system, what we really hear is the risk feels high, the effort feels really heavy, and the uncertainty feels really, really uncertain. And that's not irrational, that's human. So let's talk honestly again about what that process looks like today. And most DME organizations are not stuck. We're just really interconnected. Groups depend on other groups, and if one group is using an outdated system, it rarely fails loudly. Instead, it creates small inefficiencies and shortcuts, if you will, and pretty soon, the processes on your legacy system, these really inefficient processes, become just the way we do things. And so your legacy system, as you know, it doesn't stop working. It just requires more effort than it should. So it's also important to say this out loud again. It really can feel daunting. Changing systems takes that time and attention from people who don't have the time and attention to give. But what makes the difference is not whether the process feels big, it's whether the process is structured. When it's broken into phases with clear responsibilities and expectations and a timeline. And with structure, it becomes manageable, step by step. And so when teams understand the plan and they understand what is happening and why and when, that sense of being overwhelmed, switching from a legacy system to a new system, that sense of being overwhelmed starts to shrink. And with structure, then this becomes a project. So when we talk about legacy workflows with our customers and our prospects, we hear a lot about duplicate entry, limited reporting visibility. We hear about reactive operations. We hear about really a lot of concerns about scaling, and growth is happening and legacy systems are not keeping up. And if they are keeping up, it's because there's a person behind the scenes doing a lot of manual work. And so pretty soon these workarounds, they become your workflow. And that's a really, really pretty heavy sentence.
So this brings us to our first poll question. It should pop up on the screen. And Abby, if you see, you can go ahead and read it because I actually can't on my side. But we'll go ahead and do the first poll.
Okay. So poll question number 1, where are you today in evaluating alternatives to your current DME software? Options are, we're evaluating new platforms right now. Option 2, we plan to evaluate options within the next 12 months. Option 3, we're frustrated but haven't started looking yet. And there's also another option.
And just a good time to mention, there's quite a few attendees here on this webinar today. So for anyone who is curious how to switch, but might not have even seen our platform yet or might have questions, you can always comment the word demo in the question or comment box, or inquire directly on our website. We'd be happy to show you the platform, but it's never too early to start thinking about how migration actually works.
All right, Wayne, I think we got a pretty good view. The results, 45% of you said we're frustrated but haven't started looking, followed by other. And then come in third and fourth is we plan to evaluate options within the next 12 months, and we're actively evaluating platforms right now. So the primary response was we're frustrated but haven't started looking yet.
Well, then definitely comment the word demo in the chat or visit NikoHealth.com. But appreciate that 45% starting to think about these things. We'll move on to the next slide.
Okay. This visual captures something that we hear a lot. On the left-hand side is a legacy system with lots of tabs open. There's a tool for billing, another tool for documents, maybe a spreadsheet for reporting, another tab for shipping or inventory. And it takes a lot of effort. People have to remember steps, they have to double check for things, and there probably are a few key individuals within your organizations that know how everything works together. On the right side is a modern DME system. One place for your data, one place for your workflow, one view of your business, a lot less clicking, and less wondering if something was missed. So when a workflow is modernized, claims management becomes more consistent. Payer contract management becomes more clear. Patient estimates and collections become more straightforward, and you are able to set rules instead of relying on someone to do that double check and remember every time. And finally, eligibility checks happen earlier. So let's start talking about tactically what this looks like from a NikoHealth perspective. And starting with that structure and applying that structure with our project team. So we have found that 4 main resources are key to every project to ensure the seamless and scalable delivery of a modern DME. First is your project manager. Every project has a project manager, primary point of contact, owning the end-to-end delivery of the project from kickoff to go live. Next, there's a workflow specialist. So they align your as-is process on the legacy system to the to-be process on a modern DME. They talk about best practices and enablement and onboarding. Then we have our data analyst, our data migration team. They're responsible for mapping and migrating and validating the data. And finally, we have a hypercare team who provides that elevated level of support after going live on NikoHealth or modern DME. And they make sure that the system is working as intended and for your business. So I'm going to talk more about hypercare because it might be my favorite part here in a few slides, but lots of structure. We know that bumps are going to happen along the way of a project. And so we have this elite group of folks who are able to get customers through those bumps together, hand in hand, and across the finish line through the project and migration. Let's talk about how a project is structured. The timeline starts from project initiation, where we kick off the project. We schedule a design and workflow meeting and a few meetings with you. We talk about top payers and enrollment and clearinghouse. Then we dive into onboarding and training, where the customer and you guys are learning how the platform works within your processes and on a new system. For a data migration project, which I also want to talk about a little bit more in depth about what that data means and if it's right to migrate data for your business. But for data projects, we migrate data from old legacy systems to new and also leverage a user acceptance testing period before going live to make sure that we understand what the data is going to look like in the new system versus the old system. Then a cutover plan is laid out. We understand who is doing what and when. And from that point, we enter into go live and post go live hypercare period, where you're continuing to be surrounded with support on a new platform. So on the previous slide, I talked about data and really how do customers determine what needs to move? And so when it comes to data migration, there's really no right answer on what data sets to move. We've seen it all. So we've seen customers want to move everything, and they start that clean. That's their definition of starting clean. Other customers prefer not to migrate any data, and that's how they prefer to start clean. If you do migrate data, we'll have several conversations with you. We have these concepts of data bundles, which are structured and grouped by function and dependency. So for example, patient documents and patient demographics, they go hand in hand, and we would like to migrate those together because one doesn't really mean much without the other. And then some customers prefer to migrate specific data sets and go with the more a la carte route. So we'll work with you to decide if data migration is right for you, what you should move, and maybe what you should not move. And then we'll walk through any dependencies so there's no surprises. And the goal is to move the data that you need and are required to operate your business.
So this brings us to our poll question number 2. I'll let Abby go ahead and read it. We'll give everyone a minute or so to answer those.
All right. The question is, what is the biggest challenge you experience with your current DME software? Option 1, billing reimbursement workflow limitations. Option 2 is customer service. Option 3 is slow system performance or outdated technology. Option 4 is difficulty integrating with other platforms. And option 5 is poor usability for staff. I see votes are trickling in. Right now it's poor usability for staff right now. Let's give it like a couple more seconds. Okay. All right. So what we're seeing is that poor usability for staff is 50% of the responses, followed by difficulty integrating with other platforms and slow system performance or outdated technology coming in third.
I think next time maybe we'll put all the above, but those are some of the top, all of them are really top reasons why providers reach out to us and, are interested in how to actually switch. These providers are switching to NikoHealth at, we're experiencing adoption like we've never seen before. High performing, well-established providers are making the switch to NikoHealth and going through these exact processes that you're seeing here today, really to solve some of those challenges that you guys are facing today. So thank you guys for the transparency and sharing those details, and we'll jump back into the presentation.
All right. Thanks, Wayne. And maybe if I'm putting myself in your shoes, I'm wondering, okay, Abby, that's great. We have a structured project team. You've talked about the implementation process. We've talked about data migration, but I'm still uneasy. So I just wanted to continue to peel off the layers on this the project implementation process, and to give you guys more transparency into all the moving parts, and how we structure it to make sure that we're going across the finish line hand in hand, looking left and right together. So again, we'll start with project initiation, and it's really about making sure that we're understanding your current workflows and your priorities. As we set up the system with you, we're running structured training sessions and practical real life workflows in the system starting right off the bat. So we're not waiting for 4 weeks until we actually talk about your priorities and real life scenarios. The onboarding is for your business. So we're doing that alongside you. In parallel, we're also doing data migration where we're loading data into a sandbox environment. We're going through that user acceptance testing, comparing data in your legacy environment with the new system. And we're along your side, right? So we're saying, hey, we're not seeing values in these fields. What do you want in those fields? And if you don't know, what do we see other customers put in those fields? And really consulting with you on the data, because the data is the core component of this project. We're also working on clearinghouse activation, payer enrollment, and third-party integrations or API connections. So we are running all this in parallel, but remember we have a structured project plan that lays this out in a sequential way and order of operations, which we'll get to in a minute. About 2 weeks before go live, we'll ship to go live prep, where we do a cutover plan. And then after we go live, we go into hypercare support, which is that elevated level of support to provide our customers after turning on NikoHealth to make sure that the system is calibrated in the right way. And maybe because I just need to see it in multiple ways. That's who I am as I do implementations. This view just gives another way to look at how everything fits together from start to finish. So there are inputs, there are checkpoints, again, an order of operations and a sequence of events and structure. So for example, on this slide, we're not going to go into user acceptance testing until we have a good baseline of training in place. We're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves in training without having our data or understanding of where the data is coming from in place. So each step builds upon the previous step. And we do this by weeks. So again, it's structured and tangible. We're not just going to say, okay, here's what we're doing. Here's the whole kit and caboodle, right? We break it up into manageable pieces. We say what we're going to do as a map, but we're also going to be with you giving a fine-tuned look of not only giving you a map of where we're going, but also that Google map view of this is the street, this is the house, and walking you through every step of the way.
Yeah, and just want to chime in here quickly, Abby. So going back to the poll for the 45% of you that were frustrated that haven't started looking yet, obviously the software doing what it needs to do is incredibly important, but equally important for you guys to do your due diligence on and explore is the services behind those of how you actually get onto a platform like NikoHealth. So if a vendor can't provide you with something this detailed, you know, to me, that's a red flag because this is, what sets you guys up for long-term success. So as you guys possibly start evaluating systems out there, kind of keep this other important piece of the process in the back of your mind of, how their implementations look, what type of support and service you get, how many team members they actually have doing this. Are they spread too thin? You know, just to me, that's equally as important and something when I'm speaking with DME providers to shed light on. So it's, before they enter into this type of agreement, they're clear on the process of how this actual works and everyone's comfortable. Just my 2 cents there.
Thanks, Wayne. All right, let's talk about integrations. And integrations are about making sure systems are talking to each other without that extra work. So we at NikoHealth have integrations that help with order and delivery and inventory and clearinghouse, where claims go out and remittances come back in, and your teams don't need to do that manual posting. So we also have API connections, which is that secure exchange of data, removing the need for spreadsheets and manual exports. And so when you combine data and integrations in your workflow and actually use these integrations in your workflow, your teams are now spending less time keying information and more time moving your business forward. A very large component of our implementation, along with integrations, is training. So training is designed to be practical and easy to follow. And again, it's structured. So we move step by step through the training so that teams build confidence as they go. So we begin with onboarding and system setup, making sure your foundation is in place. Next, we go on to system management. We do users and roles and your core settings. We cover the product catalog and inventory management. And after that, we talk through a patient profile, how information is entered and how it connects across departments. We move into workflow, your order workflow, your intake through fulfillment. We cover scheduling, mobile delivery, billing and revenue cycle management. So how those claims are created, submitted, and tracked. We're going to talk about integrations throughout the project, but also spend time on it in a specific training. So understanding how the systems are talking to each other, and finally talk about reporting so you can monitor that performance and drive the continuous improvement. So by the end of training, you will not just know the system, you'll be confident in using the system in day-to-day operations. And so we have a variety of things to make sure that projects run smoothly. Again, it's a big project. So when we apply structure, it becomes more tangible. But with structure, we have these clear milestones and checkpoints throughout the project. We don't let it get too far without making sure that there's an understanding and that all the users are on board and have enough knowledge to do their job in the system. We also do that real world scenario practice in the system. We're not just showing you how to do things on dummy data. We're doing it with your use cases and with your data. We have that dedicated implementation team with that project manager, data analyst, your workflow consultant, and your hypercare support. We have post go live elevated support, again, that hypercare piece, which I'm not done talking about. There was a whole slide on it. And it's my favorite piece. A structured communication cadence. So what you can expect from NikoHealth is not only a status report that comes out at the end of the week with the accomplishments, the risks, but also calls throughout the week that are focused on the project. They're focused on workflow and onboarding. They're focused on your data. So we're in constant communication with you throughout the duration of your project, multiple times a week and in multiple forms. And then we have ongoing partnership beyond go live with our customer success team and beyond hypercare. And I'll spend a few minutes on a subsequent slide on that as well. Okay, so let's talk about hypercare. Hypercare, and we call it hypercare, and that's maybe more of an internal jargon in NikoHealth, but it's this period after go live where there's an elevated level of support. And I think maybe a few of you on the phone, or at least I have been a part of implementations where we go live and then we don't hear anything from anyone at our new vendor. And that is the exact opposite case here at NikoHealth. For 4 to 6 weeks, we have hypercare, which is this team of people providing proactive consultation and meetings with you. We're identifying trends in your system, adjusting any workflows that need to be adjusted. I just had a customer talk to me about, hey, Abby, didn't really understand the mobile piece of resupply. Can we double click on that again? So hypercare will take care of this as well. And the purpose of hypercare is stabilization. So by the end of this period, we find that customers are confident and they're steady in the system and they're operating on their own, and they're ready to go into our partnership after go live, which is on the next slide, talking about our customer success organization. So after implementation and hypercare are complete, every customer has a customer success manager as their primary point of contact here at NikoHealth. Their goal is to stay aligned with your goals and continue to help you move forward. And so they review performance with you. They're your advocate. They identify trends in your system. And as you grow, our customer success manager is right there with you, making sure the system is growing alongside your business. So again, maybe just a lot of structure that continues beyond the implementation period and the hypercare period with our customer success organization, with our customer success manager. We're talking about billing slowdowns. How's your data looking? How are your people feeling about the change? What can we do and what have we seen to make sure that people are feeling a part of the NikoHealth community and platform? We're talking about how much time you're spending in the system, and then really focusing on adoption and proactive mitigation strategies here with our customer success group.
So that takes us to poll question number 3, the third and final one.
All right. The question is, what concerns you most about switching DME software? There's 5 options. The first option is disruption to daily operations, data migration, and historical records. The third option is staff training and adoption. Fourth is implementation timeline. And fifth is cost of switching. All right, we'll give it just a couple more seconds here. All right, Wayne, it's pretty evenly distributed. Tied for first are data migration and historical records, along with cost of switching, followed by disruption to daily operations.
Interesting. My 2 cents here is, at the end of the day, I would say, NikoHealth checks the boxes for DME providers. Really, the biggest hurdle is actually the time and effort and money required to switch. So, and I would say the other one is, a lot of people come to us hesitant to switch. I hear horror stories of their migration process to the software they're currently on. I don't think I've ever heard a good one, to be honest with you. I call it the PTSD from switching to whatever they were on before. So some of it come into this thinking they might experience a similar situation, and this was really built to be a world-class process to actually not only ease those concerns, but systematically in a very structured way get you off of a legacy platform, right? Because at some point you do have to switch, and times change and there's more modern solutions. So our number one goal is to set up our customers for success. So again, can't stress the importance of kind of helping our customers and future customers understand that if they go down this partnership path with us, there's a really strong process in place. But I empathize with all the DME providers out there just after doing this so long, and these are top of mind concerns when anyone's switching software. So our job is to make sure from both ends of the parties that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Because at the end of the day, the process that we've developed really has created a scenario where the pain of staying on these legacy platforms actually now far exceeds the temporary kind of perceived pain of switching solutions. So we only got a couple, 1 or 2 more slides left, but I'll let Abby kind of round this out here with the key takeaways, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. And I'm sorry, I'm skipping slides here.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. As Wayne said, just 2 more slides. So thanks for hanging in there with us. But I'll leave you with three main takeaways for today. First, implementation process is structured. There's a clear progression from kickoff through training, go live, and hypercare. Second is that the support continues beyond go live. That hypercare period focuses on stability and ongoing relationship with that dedicated customer support manager, and making sure that there's accountability beyond the initial launch. And third is that the process is collaborative and that there's structure and a framework on both sides, on our customer side and on our side, which creates alignment. And so as we go into the next slide, the objective is to not simply just turn on a system here, but to ensure that there's confidence. And so that's what this entire journey is about. It's not just turning on software. It's about building a system that supports your people and your processes and your long-term goals. And so when customers provide the insight and engagement, and we provide that structure and guidance, that's where that magic really happens and really drives success.
And that was our last slide. I believe we do have some time for some Q&A. And again, for those of you that were in that 45% that are frustrated but haven't started looking yet, if you're on your phone, you can scan this. It'll take you to a web form to request a demo. I'm very easy to find on LinkedIn. If you guys aren't connected with me yet, Wayne Hudson over here, feel free. My inbox is always open. You can type demo in the chat of the questions, and someone will personally reach out to see what type of questions you have and how we could potentially help you guys.
Super. Thank you both so very much. I think that was wonderful. We have received some questions, so I just wanted to jump right in and throw them at you. A lot of providers tend to complain about their legacy systems, but they haven't always made the switch. What do you two think? What's the final? It's enough is enough, and they've made the actual move.
That is there. I'll answer that one. There's a lot to unpack there. There's definitely usually a straw that breaks the camel's back of things that kind of added up over the years. Lately, it's been people reaching out about customer service issues, saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm not being supported the way I need to be." Every time I pick up the phone and call for help, it's a different person, or my person has left the organization that used to help me. That's just one that's top of mind recently. Other one is system slowness. So, if the legacy systems you're using aren't functioning fast and they're not reliable, can also be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And some are just looking for, a more open system that can allow you to build on top of. Because, if you follow any software trends in DME, it's clear to see there's new companies rising up, new type of AI technologies that are available. And all systems need to talk to each other. If there's a world where you're manually keying in data from one system to another, you should scan that QR code immediately in chat. That's definitely a topic of conversation that I'm speaking with DME companies about every day.
Anything to add at all to that, Abby?
So I couldn't agree more. I think that we're hearing from just like a lack of responsiveness from legacy providers, and an inability to scale. So if there's a homegrown system, like how are we going to get, as our business grows, how are we going to scale along with it? Because the manual processes are unsustainable. So that would be my addition.
No, thank you. That's great. I'm a new independent DME supplier that presently does not have patients, payer contracts, or current DME software. When is the right time to bring in NikoHealth?
Sure. Sometimes it can be a moving target if you're dealing with accreditation. We recommend that you're either close to getting accredited or in the final stages, because obviously there's a financial commitment to leverage a robust system like ours. So that's always my 2 cents. If you want to chat with one of our team members about how to stage this properly, please inquire. We treat newly accredited DMEs just as good as the big ones. They're all extremely important to the DME industry. But I would say it's usually, a lot of the boxes have been checked, and this is kind of the final stage, because we don't want someone paying for something they can't necessarily use right away. But feel free to reach out to our team. We're always happy to have that discussion. Even if you're not accredited, we'll still take our time and give you a demo, make sure you understand, who we are and what we do. So when the time is right, you know who to call.
That probably makes great sense too, so they can see the value and what to expect.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, give us a shout. We're always happy to spend the time.
All right. What do you have as far as safeguards for tracking Medicare CPAP compliance requirements during the initial 90 days of rental to ensure requirements are met before billing after the trial period?
Sure, great question. Software question, not implementation question. So we do have payer rules that you can structure in the system that are driven by billing intervals. We also do have some integrations with some vendors themselves to actually pull back compliance data to trigger that. But those are the 2 ways that you can help manage compliance in our system. And there are third-party companies that specialize in like patient adherence that we have integrations with as well.
Super. When providers move to a modern DME platform, what's something that they later say they were doing the hard way for years and suddenly it became much easier?
Ooh. I mean, there's a laundry list here. Some common ones I see, depending on how old the system is manual benefit verification checks for recurring resupply orders,
Mm,
manual benefit verification for recurring rentals. Those are two big ones that are, usually some pretty quick wins. Two, depending on their payer mix, we on as part of the implementation process, we have a payer enrollment team that is responsible for making sure that all the EDI connections are current and they're done in the first place. So sometimes we're migrating providers over, and again, because of lack of customer service or resources on the legacy vendors, they might not have all their payers connected for electronic benefit verification, claim submission, and remit. So just kind of inherently going through the onboarding process kind of course corrects that. And our goal is for them to bill as much electronic as possible. Two is if they don't have like an integrated tool to text patients for resupplies. Another one I see, they might be uploading spreadsheets into third party portals.
mm,
I'm sorry, like uploading spreadsheets into like third party text applications,
right.
which is highly manual process. Um, Paper delivery tickets, we have a mobile app. So the list goes on. This is all stuff we're happy to cover on a demo as well. But those are just some top of mind ones that I speak to people about frequently.
Are you all going to be at Heartland?
Uh, we will not be at Heartland. You need to be a VGM member, which we're not. It's a long story there, but no.
Okay. But they can still reach out to you via,
Oh, please, and you can reach out to me directly. We're just not attending Heartland. We're at every other
yeah,
Med Trade, HME Summit. We sponsor every single state association. So
and they can still do a demo as they would if
yes,
at any.
absolutely, absolutely. We'd love to meet you in person. Yeah, reach out, please.
Super. Um, as a provider, I worry that switching softwares means trading one set of problems for another. What separates modern platforms from legacy systems that many providers are still using today?
Gotcha. How much time do we have left? um, I think I mentioned some of those automation questions are like, or I think there was a similar question to this earlier, but along the same lines. But the goal when partnering with the DME company is for us to understand your world is equally as important for you to understand ours. So we do spend a tremendous amount of time for both your side and our side to make sure like the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed long before anyone um, you know, engage signed an agreement, right? So like we spend a lot of time for you to understand, hey, these are the capabilities, or hey, maybe there is a feature gap that we can work together to fill. But I would say rarely is that the case because of the thorough evaluation our customers hopefully do, and us spending a lot of time to understand the customer.
Super. You all have worked with hundreds of implementations. So, what are some of the common mistakes that providers make when evaluating or selecting a new DME software?
Um, I don't know, Abby, do you want to take a stab at that one first, and I can fill in?
Yeah, evaluating, I think there needs to be conversations internally about data migration, like what data you want to bring over. I sometimes we get to like our kickoff call and we're still talking about that, which can lengthen the time of an implementation. And we really we have a very efficient process. So we want to make sure that you're getting the value out of the system quickly. So I guess understanding the data that you want to bring over, if you do want to bring data, the data you want to bring over, and then we can talk to you and point out any dependencies and then tell you like the how, and be right alongside you as we map and migrate and validate that data. But I think my answer would be that data migration component.
Yeah, and I think just even going back to the whole point of this presentation is to pull back the curtain, right? Because saying yes to move forward with a software is one thing, but you need to know what you're getting yourself into. The double-edged sword with this is that there's time, effort, and money to switch software. It's not permanent, but there's work to do from both parties, right? So we never try to sugarcoat this. We try our best to scope it out, align on time frames, let you know about the time commitment, which isn't crazy, depending on what phase you're in, really is 1 to 5 hours a week is typically what we see.
Wow.
But I think pulling back the curtain on this, because if you're not understanding, what it takes and who does what essentially, we don't want anyone blindsided that, there's work to do, right? Where it's a major overhaul, whether it's a 5-person company or a 500. NikoHealth is a mission critical software, right? So it needs to be thought out, and it's a big change for, again, any size team. So those are just some things that we are always happy to spend the time to make sure this piece of the equation is as clear as possible for the partner that's going to go down this path with us. And the regardless of how entrenched you may feel, it's totally possible. We've moved companies that are 500 people and 5 people, right? So we have a structured process to handle that. But if it was easy as flipping a light switch, I'd be retired by now. I'm just kidding, but it's something that we take a lot of pride in, and we're very focused on the people behind the scenes at NikoHealth here to hold our customers' hands throughout this process.
Terrific. I've got one last question for you all. As a provider that feels like their current system is holding them back, I really don't know where to start. What's the first practical step that I should look at?
I would just start exploring DME softwares, book a demo, and just kind of, the more you can share with the vendor, the better, to see how they can meet your needs. But I think, it can be daunting to even start the process, right? Maybe like some analysis paralysis, but it starts with the conversation. From our end, there's never any pressure, right? Some companies that come on board I met 3 or 4 years ago, right? The timing ultimately does present itself. I will say there's never a perfect time. I'll also say, no one's ever regretted starting exploring this sooner than later.
Right.
So I would just say reach out, start the conversation, and see what makes sense and what might not make sense.
Anything to add to that from your perspective, Abby?
I think you should start with a demo of scanning this slide.
Yeah, and let's chat. It's the only way
Well,
to do it, unfortunately. And if someone inquires and it's like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm interested, but I'm kind of just poking around, we're happy to send like some supplemental videos in addition to what we chat about to let you explore the platform on your own. So it doesn't have to be this big thing if you're just curious on like some of our features, capabilities. We have plenty of case studies on our website. If you're curious of outcomes, just let us know how you feel and what you're looking for, and we'll take care of you one way or another.
Yeah, this is a safe space, right? So we want to make sure that it can be daunting, and just taking us to first step, and maybe with NikoHealth, right? Let's do a demo with you. Let's talk it through. What are your challenges? Where do you want to be? And then we can go from there.
I love that. Well, a big thank you to NikoHealth as well as our presenters, Wayne and Abby. Of course, everyone that's joined today. Quick reminder, the session was recorded and the link will be emailed to all registrants. If we didn't get to your question, don't worry. Remaining questions will be shared with NikoHealth for direct follow-up. Be sure to visit hmenews.com/webcast for additional upcoming webcasts. And thank you again for joining. Have a great rest of your week, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Have a great
Bye.
day, everyone.